Hello and welcome to another episode of Nucleus Shortcuts. This is volume 4. And if you missed earlier episodes, not to worry, you can find them on our website and the blog at nucleussec.com. I'm your host, Adam Dudley, and our topic today is Nucleus for Assessments. And Nucleus released its assessments module last year, and since then we haven't talked about it too much. So I thought it'd be interesting to have someone from the team join me on Shortcuts who worked on the module itself and has also even done some pen testing in the past. So our guest today is Eddie Gutierrez from the development team at Nucleus. Eddie worked on the assessments module, and in his LBN, or Life Before Nucleus, he worked at a security firm, and as part of his work there, he did assessments that included pen testing. So additional fun fact, Eddie is Nucleus employee number 1, and I am Nucleus employee number 2. So you're getting a rare look here and an opportunity to hang out with a couple of Nucleus Ninja originals. So it should be very exciting for the folks watching at home. Anyway, Eddie, is there anything I missed in the intro about you that you'd like to mention?
Well, you got everything. I'm happy to be here to discuss about the Nucleus Assessments module.
Awesome. All right. Well, Nucleus is unique, not only because customers and users aggregate vulnerability information and asset data from all their NetSec, AppSec, and cloud scanning tools into a single view, but you can also view the findings from those tools and have them correlated right alongside results from internal or third-party penetration tests and compliance findings. So that makes for a truly global multi-source view of vulnerabilities and the risk resulting from them across an entire organization. So today with Eddie, we're going to share more about the capabilities of Nucleus for pen testing and show you how it works. Eddie, can you give us a brief overview of Nucleus's assessments module? When we added it to the platform, how it works and what it does for the user.
Sure, yeah. So we added the Nucleus assessment module about a year ago. And in simple terms, it allows you to upload any scan that Nucleus supports directly into our assessment modules.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be Nmap scans, burp scans, any of the scan files. And then you can correlate that data and select the ones that you want to report on, and then create a nice looking report to then take over to your stakeholders. Another cool feature about the Nucleus assessment module is that you can keep track of the statuses and all the history that goes on when you're changing stuff in the assessment. So if a certain value gets changed, you can keep track of that under our activity history panel. But yeah.
Right. Okay, so just like any other vulnerability from any source in Nucleus, Nucleus provides a persistent and essentially infinite record of the history of that vulnerability, so that it can always be referenced back, which is also one of the unique things Nucleus does. There's, to my knowledge, no tools, or not many out there that offer that historical tracking capability. So I know that pen tests are done repeatedly. Some companies maybe monthly, quarterly, annually, and so it's important, right, to be able to compare, where things stand now versus where they did
Correct.
for a previous test, right? Nice. And I know that the reporting piece is a huge part of the pen testing process, and maybe a part that the pen testers don't enjoy so much, putting together that report. So I know that we save assessment teams a whole lot of time in doing that. Same thing on another part of Nucleus, where we also generate PCI reports, right? The same thing there. This is a massive report that has to be generated repeatedly, and it's just so nice to be able to hit that generate button and out comes a fairly finished product. So that's awesome. So can you give us, Eddie, a real world example of the value customers get with the assessments module? Maybe something from your own experience as a pen tester?
Yeah, so as a pen tester, one of the things, like you mentioned, reporting is a big feature about pen testing.
Yeah.
And pen testers don't really like to report. They want to actually go out and find the vulnerabilities.
Right. The fun part.
Exactly, the fun part. So Nucleus, the Nucleus assessment module allows you to get all the findings into the assessments, select the ones that you want to report on, click generate, and bam, you have an entire report with all your HTTP requests, all your descriptions, solutions, and it's pretty much ready to go.
That's awesome. That sounds like a huge time savings. So that's a big investment of time for pen testers. Doing that the manual way, I can imagine there's all kinds of spreadsheets and Word documents and PDFs and emails involved, when they could just have Nucleus just ingesting the finding data, and just generating that report with one click, and then maybe there's some minor edits involved, but other than that, it's pretty much done for you, which is great. So Eddie, why don't we give the folks at home just a brief demo of the assessments module, and maybe we could take a look at the report that's generated as well. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's do it. All right.
All right.
Let's share my screen here. All right, can you see my screen?
Sure can.
Awesome. So yeah, here's the assessment module within Nucleus. So I have two assessments here, one with the status of delivered, and this has already been merged into our Nucleus project. So that's another cool thing about our assessment module. Once you have everything, the certain pen test done, you can merge it into a Nucleus project to have any leftover vulnerabilities that were left within the assessment. So let's go into this one here that we have the status as scheduled. So here's the layout. We have the assessment details, assessment overview with the unique high risk, unique exploitable, and other overview vulnerability data. And then we have the scans page. This is where you're going to be uploading all of the main scan files, so your Nmap scans, your burp scans, Nessus scans, Qualys scans, any scan that Nucleus supports. So when you import the scan here, you then go to the findings panel, and you can see here we have vulnerabilities, and on the left-hand side, you can see that it says including an assessment. So if you don't want to include a finding in an assessment, let's say you don't want any of these informationals, you can just go here and deselect these.
Okay.
So they're not in the assessment anymore. They won't be reported on.
Got it.
And then if we move over to the assets page, this is very linear. So this is like the mentality of the pen tester. You get your scans ready, you move over to the findings. You have the assets pane, so you can see all your assets that you're going to be reporting on.
Okay.
That are in scope. And then we can go over to the assessment info. This is where your description, your pen test activity, your scope data, and any of your contact information is going to be at. Will reside. And then we have the reporting feature, where this is where you can write about the report and any additional information you want to put into the report. So here's an example report from that one that got delivered. We can see here, this is our layout. We have the table of contents with the report introduction and contact details, history, scope, introduction here, limitations is executive overview, our contact details, our history,
nice,
our assets and scope, our summary, and then here's the best part about the report that saves the pen tester a lot of time. We can see here the vulnerability. This gets it straight from Nucleus and puts it into this report. So we can see the description here and our solution, and then their target, request, and response. So if you have a certain vulnerability in the response, all you have to do is go in here, highlight it, add some reproduction steps, and you're good to go on that vulnerability. It makes the reporting process a lot easier and relieves the headache of having to do everything manually.
Wow. So you're saying you would normally that in that section of info you just shared, you would normally have to go out to the web or wherever or write it up manually, as opposed to having it pre-populated here by Nucleus for you.
Yeah, so when you're doing a pen test, you usually have notes where you have, you store your requests and responses, or like if you're using Burp Suite, you save them in like the repeater tab. and then you will have to copy them over to your Word doc, for example, to report on. So basically, all you have to do is export the burp report and upload it to the assessment modules, and it does all that for you. You don't have to
Nice.
be copying, pasting the requests and responses into the Word document.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that sounds like a huge boost in efficiency, and one that can, make an assessor just generally more efficient, and rather than having to spend so much time on these reports, they can just move on to the next project or the next assessment, doing
And
what they do best.
I want to show one more thing as well.
Sure.
So I mentioned that we merged this assessment into our Nucleus project. So this is something really cool. So a lot of pen tests, when they're at their end stage, a lot of the higher vulnerabilities get solved, but not the lower ones.
Okay.
So what the assessment module allows you to do is, if you didn't fix those, if those vulnerabilities weren't fixed, you can merge that into the Nucleus project, so you can keep track of those in Nucleus. So if we go over here to our vulnerabilities, we can see that when we merge into a project, it comes straight from the assessment, and you can keep track of those vulnerabilities straight in Nucleus, so you can keep coverage of all the assets and vulnerabilities that were found during your assessments. So that's another really
Nice.
cool feature about our assessments module.
That's great. Yeah, that sounds like a big win for Nucleus customers. So that's awesome, Eddie. Thanks for walking us through that. And you mentioned vulnerability tracking, which is something we actually covered in depth in a previous episode of Shortcuts with our solutions architect Dave. So I'd like to mention that, so the folks watching at home can check that out if they're interested in learning more about Nucleus's powerful vulnerability tracking capabilities. And before we wrap up this episode, Eddie, in your view, what's the most important thing for the folks at home to take away from what we talked about here today? Say there's an analyst or an engineer or even a security architect or, a pen testing team leader, starting to come around to the idea of enhancing their program with Nucleus. What would you say to them with regards to the benefits of implementing Nucleus for assessments in their program?
Yeah, I've harped on it long enough. The reporting feature is it's really nice. It saves a lot of time.
Great.
You just upload your vulnerabilities, select the ones that you want in the report, press generate, and it's ready to go. It's really simple as that. It's really nice.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Well, that's a wrap. And Eddie, thank you so much for joining us on Shortcuts. And we'll share links that are relevant in the show notes, including how you can get a free trial, etc. And we'll see you soon on the next Nucleus Shortcuts.